Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us on today's conference call. If you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 on your keypad. Bellator has a very special doubleheader this weekend with the semifinals for the Heavyweight World Grand Prix. On Friday, Bellator 207 will have Matt Mitrione taking on Ryan Bader at the Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. And the very next night, this Saturday, Bellator 208 will see Fedor Emelianenko take on Chael Sonnen, which takes place at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island, New York. Both events will air live and free on the Paramount Network at 9 p.m. Eastern on the respective nights and will also stream live on DAZN. We've got a very unique opportunity today for all four fighters that I've just mentioned to speak to the media together. And with that, we will open it up for questions.
Our first question comes from the line of Steve Juan with MMA Mania.
Thank you, operator. I have a question for each of our heavyweights on the line, and I'd like to start with Matt Mitrione. Matt, you've been called the most underrated heavyweight in Bellator and possibly in the sport. Do you feel like this fight with Ryan Bader to advance to the finals is a chance to prove that?
I don't know. I've never really kind of put that together. Yeah, I would say probably. I think Bader's an incredible challenge. I think he's obviously the best 205er we have on the roster. I think him coming up to heavyweight, I think is a show of pretty big courage and a lot of confidence on his side. And I think that after I beat him on Friday, I think that it'll definitely be a feather in my cap. I think he's a very big challenge, and it should be a lot of fun.
All right, thank you. And Ryan, you've got an excellent win streak coming into this fight, as does Matt, of course, and you are the current light heavyweight champion. How do you feel about this matchup, and what do you think it says if you beat Matt?
Yeah, he's a true heavyweight coming into this tournament. A lot of people had him as number one. I still feel like he's one of my harder matchups for sure. I feel confident. I feel like the heavyweight weight is not going to be an issue. I'm going to bring that movement, that quickness, the cardio, the relentless pace, that I have at 205, let alone bringing that up to the heavyweight division. Feel good about this fight. A tough challenge for sure. And just ready to do it, ready to prove to the people that, I belong here.
Now, for Chael Sonnen, I know you said on a previous Bellator show that you wished you could do commentary and fight at the same time, but you have to concentrate on getting ready for your fight with Fedor. So how has it been juggling both your analyst and commentator duties and preparing to face the Last Emperor?
The commentating is very short. I don't do a whole lot of it, just a show every here and there, so it really hasn't interfered. The shows are also on Saturdays. I usually take Saturdays off. But I can tell you training's hard. I'm sore and tired all the time. It's up and down, but the two don't conflict in the least.
What do you think of Fedor on the whole and this fight?
I think Fedor's great. A lot of people say he's the best heavyweight of all time. I'm one of those people, but the best heavyweight of all time is about to take on the best fighter of all time.
All right, we look forward to that. And last but not least, the Last Emperor, Fedor Emelianenko. Chael has wanted this fight for a long time. He's even sat next to you during a press conference and said he wanted to fight you. How do you feel knowing this fight is going to happen now?
Вы знаете, насколько долго человек стремился к этому бою. Даже сидя рядом с вами на пресс-конференции, он говорил, что очень ждет этого боя. Что вы думаете по этому поводу и по поводу этого боя?
Да, я тоже очень жду этого боя. Тоже серьезно к нему готовился. В субботу он состоится.
Yeah, I'm waiting for this fight. I'm looking forward for this fight. I was preparing very seriously, was working hard to get to this fight, and if it's God's will, on Saturday, we'll meet each other.
Very good. Thank you all, and the next caller can go ahead.
Our next question comes from the line of Jad Ashadi with MMA Fighting.
Hey, guys, I appreciate the time today. My question's for Chael. Chael, I mean, you were all over the place last week in Vegas covering the big fight. How was that sort of managing that with your own fight this coming week? Like, was that a little bit of a distraction? How were you able to keep doing what you needed to do for yourself amidst all that?
those things motivate me. You know, my career will end the same way that it started, which is as a fan. And I didn't want to miss it. I was glad that I was there. And I get envious of those guys. I'm jealous sitting back watching somebody walk out and the arena and the fill up and they get to compete. I only have one resentment in this sport, and that is that we only get to do it 3 times a year. I hate that. As a wrestler, we had 5 and 6 matches a week. We would have 30 matches a month. And, yeah, man, I get envious, and that's really why I went. I really didn't go to work it and to cover it as much as to see it and get inspired, and it worked.
How were you able to sort of manage the schedule for yourself, just like keep training while you were doing all that?
Well, I would take my coach with me if I ever have to travel. I was in California a couple of weeks ago. I went and worked out with Cormier and actually Khabib as well. And then last week, my head trainer lives in Las Vegas. Randy Couture's got a gym out there who I've been with from the beginning. So, yeah, it's one thing about MMA. It's a very small community. Anywhere you go. I was somewhere, I can't remember, about 2 months ago, and I got a hold of Ryan Bader to see if he was around so we could work out. He wasn't around. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes. Where this tournament's a little bit different. I will share with you. I feel like I'm speaking for everybody, but I guess I'll speak for myself. We did not choose to fight one another. This isn't based around animosity. It's a different situation. We are in a straight line bracket, and we match up with whoever advances. So it's different. It's a different feel. It's what I like. It's what I'm used to, but it is a different approach, at least for me.
Sure. Well, hey, last thing from me. I know Fedor's been in this game a long time. You've talked a lot about him, sort of the things he accomplished in Japan. How would you assess him now as a fighter? Like, who is he now at this point in his career, and what is he capable of?
Well, I think I have to let you know on Sunday, but, I mean, I'm a believer. I've never bought into any anti-Fedor hype. You know, I think he's had some problems with some really big guys. If you were to look at, say, Bigfoot Silva, by example, I think some of that size, you know, Bigfoot gets in there about 280. People talk about Fedor being a light heavyweight all through his career. So I think he had some size issue. If you look at the Mitrione fight, I mean, the guys knock each other down. It was just a different kind of fight, you know. And I watched him fight Frank Mir. I watched him pull himself back up when, at least emotionally, I would imagine he was at a low. I respected it.
Well, hey, I appreciate it, Joe. Good luck.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Donald Corby with Irish Daily Mirror.
Hey, my first question is for Chael. I just want to ask about the public perception of you as a fighter, as an analyst. You know, at your height of fame, when you fought Anderson Silva for the title those times, you were the bad guy. You were in wrestling terms the heel. How have you adjusted to now? I mean, I look at your YouTube videos. Everyone's saying nice things about you. Your last couple of fights, you know, you've gone in as the baby face. How have you adjusted to being the good guy in the public eye?
I despise it, and I will do anything. To get out of that role. It's inaccurate. I wish you'd report it correctly, and I'm the biggest heel this sport has. And I may look nice, but it's just a disguise. I promise you, I am a snake with blue eyes.
If you could choose, supposing you get past Fedor on Saturday night, if you could choose, who would you face in the Grand Prix final?
Well, I don't overly want to fight any one of those guys, quite frankly. I don't know how bad I want to be in here with Fedor, but I'm going to let that match play out. If I had my druthers, I would be on Friday and they would be on Saturday. I would like to sit back and enjoy that match. I think that it is really hard. I think that Mitrione has some very clear ways to win. But, you know, we are all fighting for a world championship. Ryan Bader's already a world champion, so we know he can win this whole thing. I just think it's an interesting match. I think I like what Mitrione says. I think if Mitrione connects, Bader's going to have some big problems. I like what Bader says. He says, I'm good at what Matt's weaknesses are. I think these guys need to go figure it out on their own.
Thanks very much, Shell. My next question is for Fedor. As a legendary Russian fighter yourself, what did you make of Khabib's actions on Saturday night?
Думаешь, Хабиб, как он себя, как он выступил в прошлом субботу? Я не смотрел, я сейчас не смотрел даже, не смотрел выступление Хабиба, я уже с четверга. Вот. Я не смотрел его выступление, я слышал, что он победил, но слышал, что произошло в Сенделе, но комментировать как-то никак не хотел, потому что не видел.
As I arrived to United States on Thursday, so I didn't have the opportunity to watch this fight. And usually I don't watch fights during my camp. And I heard actually about the fight. I heard that Khabib won, and I heard about the brawl which happened. But as I haven't seen, I haven't watched it myself, I won't give any comments about that.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll leave it to the next caller.
Our next question comes from the line of Stephen Muehlhausen with SportingNews.com.
Hi, guys. Thank you for taking the time today. And the first question is for Ryan. And, you're beating King Mo now. You're the only remaining light heavyweight in this field. And when you look at the other three, do you feel, considering what they've done, do you feel you're the underdog, or do you feel like you're still the favorite, like many people have said that you are?
I don't really take any stock to any of it. I'm just going in there, keeping my head down, doing my job, one fight at a time. You look at lines, you look at favorites. Who cares? Coming in, Matt was a favorite to win this whole thing. Now I'm facing, that guy that was number one at one time. And it really, I think I speak for all the fighters. The lines and stuff don't matter. This is MMA. Big guys, small gloves. It takes one millimeter to be out of position, and you get caught with a big, big punch, or you could be a minus 1,000. The sport's crazy. That's why people love it. It's entertaining. You don't know what's going to happen, and so the lines and all that they mean nothing to me.
Now you're facing an actual heavyweight in Matt, and what have you done differently in this training camp compared to past training?
Yeah, for me, I wasn't taking much stock into the whole, I need to be heavier, I need to do this. I went about, what I usually do. I put on probably a good 10 pounds of lean muscle, but I wanted to do that, and I wanted to see how I performed, how I reacted, how my body, took that on, and it did great. I was up at almost 240 at one point in this camp of, solid. That was probably, 4 weeks ago. Now I'm probably around 230, 233, 35, whatever. And I feel great. I feel like I'm faster than ever. My cardio is best it's ever been. I'm healthy. Most importantly, I had a great camp, and I come into this fight 100% healthy. And so, man, I just feel good. I feel like there's a lot of talk on this whole heavyweight. He's heavier than you. He might come in 10, 15 pounds heavier. Who cares? I train with bigger guys all the time. I want to keep what makes my attributes that makes me good, and I don't want to lose that and try to gain some sloppy poundage, so, I want to fight the heavyweight. I want to fight the best heavyweight in this tournament. If I go through this and I'm fighting nothing but light heavyweights, it's kind of diminished a little bit. So I get to go in there and fight the guy that they said is going to win this whole thing at heavyweight.
Is the plan for you to go in, like you said, around 230, 233, or do you want to cut just a little bit to be a little bit more lean and have a little bit more speed?
No, my speed's there. I'm faster than I was, with that extra muscle. That's, we put that on strategically. We knew, but what's great about this whole tournament is we knew who we were going to fight. We knew, looking down the back bracket, the potential matchup. So I'm fighting King Mo, going in there. He's a smaller guy. I don't want to gain a lot of excess weight where I didn't know how I was going to feel in there. I was fighting a light heavyweight. So go out there, I win that fight knowing that I'm fighting Matt Mitrione. I was the last guy to fight in this tournament. So I got to sit back and watch all these fights unfold. And then, knowing that I was fighting Matt Mitrione, who's a bigger heavyweight, one of the biggest guys left here, I put on some strategic pounds, knowing I was going to feel, well. And going into my last fight, I didn't cut anyway, and I felt amazing, without pulling 15 to 20 pounds of water out of my body like I usually do at 205. I went in there happy as can be, the same way I am when I'm training, when I'm sparring, when I know I'm feeling good. So this will be no different.
And this question is for Chael. And Chael, kind of what I asked Ryan, what have you done differently? You fought at 205 in the past, and you primarily fought at middleweight. What have you done differently in your fight with Rampage and in this fight coming up with Fedor in terms of weight and that type of preparation?
Well, I try to do the same thing. I tried to get some weight off. Last week I was about 227. I'd like to weigh in for this fight about 220. A little bit under would be ideal for me. I came in with a different philosophy. I always thought that us smaller guys were the better athletes. That, you know, whether it's 85 or 205, that we were the better athletes, and that was going to be my approach. I was going to use speed and athleticism, ability to put things together, to chain wrestle, to push a pace harder than what heavyweights had seen, and whether that turns out to be right or not, that's the philosophy I went with. So I really haven't tried to do anything different. I usually get in the ring around 220. When I was a light heavyweight, I try to get in there at, you know, right around 220 for the heavyweight class too.
You know, you've fought some of the biggest names and the greatest in the sport. You've fought Anderson Silva twice. You've been in the cage with John Jones, and now you're facing what many people consider the greatest of all time and the greatest heavyweight of all time, Fedor Emelianenko. Do you sit and think about that at all? To be like, I'm pretty blessed to be able to get these type of opportunities when you're going to be the only one to fight the three guys many people consider to be the best of all time.
I've never thought of it like that, but I think that you're right. I think that I should have a little more appreciation. It's, you know, one thing that I never did in my career, and I regret it, but I never had any fun. And I do look back at some of those moments, and I would love to have them back, and I do wish that I would have enjoyed them some more. But, I mean, it's competition. Again, it's the only thing I know. When I was in the wrestling world, you take on those biggest names 2 and 3 times in one season, and you'd have 4 or 5 seasons just in college alone. So, man, if there's guys out there to fight, I want to fight them, and it doesn't have to be a big-name guy. I hear guys say that sometimes. I only want these big matches. I will take any match. You could bring me a bum or you could bring me a champion. I will treat them all the same.
My final question for you, Chael, you know, you've lost to John and you lost those 2 fights to Anderson, and do you feel this is a legacy-defining fight for you?
No, I haven't thought of it in those terms, but I think that the tournament is going to change somebody's, career in the way that they're remembered. I always resist the word legacy. I think your question is probably very fair. I just resist it. It reminds me of the guys when I was in high school that graduated and they'd come back to the football games wearing their Letterman's jackets. I had great memories from high school. I had great memories from college. I was an All-American, but aside from saying that to you right now, I don't think I've said those words in 20 years. I don't want to be remembered for something that I used to do. As my life moves on, I would like to create new memories and have new goals and successes. So I'm not a big legacy guy, but I can personally tell you some losses that I've had that have kept me up, and they hurt really bad. And I don't like that feeling, and I do everything I can to avoid them, and I would like to win this match.
I do have one more here. Based off that, I liked what you said there right at the end there. What is your legacy? You know, what do you want to be remembered as? Say you're victorious and you win the title. What would you like to be remembered as when your career does come to an end?
Well, I've thought about leaving the sport. I have a real frustration with where this sport is at. And, you know, for some of us older guys that would do anything for an opportunity, fight anybody at any time, no matter what, it's very hard for us to look at the locker rooms today where these guys need carrots dangled in front of their face, where they're pulling out of fights, where they're missing weight, where they're coming up with excuses. I don't know anything about this. I used to fight at the dog park for no money, and I was begging to get in there. It was all about intrinsic value. There was no fame, and there was no money in this sport. And if you took the fame and money out of this sport, some of us are still going to show up. And it's much like the Olympic Games. The right guy shows up every 4 years. So how would I like to be remembered? I am going to try to set an example for the industry that you either want to do this or you don't. And if you don't, get the hell out of the way and let somebody else come take your spot.
Thank you, Chael. Thank you, Ryan, and the best of luck to you guys this coming weekend.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Garrett Davies with London Telegraph.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Just a very quick question for all of you, really, for all 4 heavyweights on the call. Thank you for joining us today.
It's not starting out that quick.
Listen, as you said, if I had a daughter, she wouldn't be called Brevity, so I'm taking advantage of that, Chael. Listen, given that you are the Elvis of MMA, Chael, I'll start with you, and I'll ask all 4 of the heavyweights, gentlemen, to answer this question. Apologies for the noise. I am in an airport. I wondered whether all of you, starting with Chael, could answer the question. You're all heavyweights. You're in a heavyweight tournament. How important is it that, apart from smack talk and building fights, that fighters carry themselves properly outside the fighting arena and never get into altercations with people to show an example of what sport is really like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think just in human life in general, it's important to be civilized. If you're talking, I think you're talking about what happened over the weekend. I think that it was a really big shock. I don't know why it happened. We're in one of these sports. People always have their different opinions as to why fighting works and you know, why Bellator is selling out and doing so well. I have my own, and I think it's just because everybody can relate to it. I believe everybody in every office or every job site in the world has somebody, some coworker that if they could get away with it, they would like to fight. And we're just in one of those sports where we can. So I guess my point to that, Gareth, is you do regulated unarmed combat. When the bell rings, you shake hands and walk away. That's the way it goes. You settle your dispute there, and sometimes you have a glorious moment, and sometimes you got to hang your head like the skunk at the garden party. But either way, you shake hands and you walk away.
Thank you, Chael. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, you know, the whole thing was kind of unfortunate what happened with Khabib and Conor. You know, we kind of get a bad rap anyway. It's still not 100% mainstream. People look at us like we're hooligans and, you know, and whatnot, even though we're not. You know, but, you know, the whole thing, you know, it was part of the storyline. You have the whole bus incident in the storyline, in the promos, and they're running with that. So it was expected, you know, when that Khabib goes out there and wins that fight, that he's going to do something. His cornermen are going to do something, you know, and so, you know, stuff like that happens. And you have guys that are, you think they're the toughest guys in the world, and they are, you know, and you get a lot of guys around each other that are like that, stuff's going to pop off a little bit, you know, so, you know, it is what it is. It happens sometimes. I think it's bad for the sport. Is it entertaining? A lot of people are talking about it. You know, there's potential rematch, potentially what happens with fines and sanctions, all that kind of stuff. But me personally, you know, I'd like to see the sport keep evolving to the point where we're looked at, you know, like other professional sports organizations, you know, Major League Baseball, NFL. You know, we have a long way to go, though.
Thank you, Ryan. And what about you, Matt?
I echo their same sentiments.
Have you ever been drawn into feeling really angry with your opponents, either before or after an event?
Not really. I'd be lying if I said no, but nobody really worth my time or energy. Like Chael said, once the fight's over, the fight's over. There may be bad blood about something that went on or whatever else, but I've got an active, normal life. I'm a father of 3 busy kids. I don't really care enough about somebody else I just beat to worry about it. So that's my perspective on it.
Thank you, Matt. And what about you, Fedor? You know, have you ever? What's your feeling about the question about the way that fighters and heavyweights particularly should carry themselves?
Как вы думаете, как Федор, как должны вести себя спортсмены вне клетки? То есть внутри клетки вы агрессивны, вы настроены против друг друга. Насколько важно быть цивилизованным и вести себя хорошо вот правильно, после боя и до боя?
Ну, спортсмены по своей природе уже, по своим занятиям уже обладают огромной физической силой и владеют теми знаниями, которыми не владеют обычные люди. Поэтому, конечно, максимально контролировать свои действия, свои силы. Вот. И, конечно, ни в коем случае не прибегать к насилию. Быть аккуратным в своих словах, не провоцировать.
So all the sportsmen, according to their nature, according to their job they're doing, so they have huge power and huge physical strength. They also have the special knowledge which ordinary people don't have and which they don't use also in everyday life. That's why it's very important to be able to control yourself, to be very careful in everything what you say, and never actually use your physical strength in everyday life. And you have to be able to control yourself in maximum way.
Our next question comes from the line of Damon Martin with FlowCombat.com.
Hey guys, first question is for Chael. Chael, you fought pretty much, every kind of style you could fight in the world, but obviously Fedor is a different animal, a legend. You mentioned probably the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's had a lot of good luck against wrestlers in his career. Outside of maybe Dan Henderson, I think he's beaten most of the wrestlers he's faced in his career. How do you approach that, considering you are a very dominant wrestler in most of your fights?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I had one face-off with Fedor, and he was shorter than me, which surprised me. I remember being face-to-face, and that was all I thought is, oh, wow, getting underneath this guy is going to require a little bit more. I don't really know. More than anything, for me, Fedor just brings a power I've never had to deal with before. I watch a lot of his tapes and his films. I've been stunned at how hard he can hit, particularly with that right hand. His feet leave the ground. Even when he's doing ground and pound, I've seen his body come off the mat. He puts everything into it with bad intentions. I think that's the biggest obstacle that I'm going to have to deal with. I'm sure he can get a takedown here or there. I don't think he can keep me down, but we'll see what happens there. But overall, the biggest standout that I've seen from him is just that explosive power.
Chael, this is a tournament, so as you said, you're not picking your opponents, but at the end of the day, this is a big fight. Fedor is a legend. You have a lot of big wins in your career. You're coming off 2 big wins in your career. Where does a win over Fedor, where does that, what does that mean to you in terms of your career? Is that one of the biggest wins you've ever had? Where would you put a win over Fedor in terms of your biggest accomplishment?
Yeah, so for me, whatever fight is coming up next is the most important. If you would have asked me over Rampage or to go back or whoever was before that, I would have had the same answer, that this is the most important one. But that's how it feels. I got a real short-term memory. I don't really remember some of those old fights. It makes me feel good when somebody else brings them up and they remembered them and thought it was a good performance or something like that. But I don't. I only look ahead. I don't really know anything about it. So beating Fedor is very important to me.
At the end of the day, it's always a competition, Chael. I know you hate the 2 words trash talk. We've had that conversation before. You're not a big fan of those 2 words put together, but you kind of changed the way fights are promoted in this sport. You weren't the first guy to say something mean about an opponent, and you're not the last guy, but the way you were able to promote your fights kind of changed the sport. And when you look at guys like Conor McGregor or Colby Covington, whoever it is, the guys who are kind of pushing the envelope to promote their fights, do you feel like that's something you'll remember when it's all said and done, the way you kind of changed the sport in a way? You changed the way people promote fights.
Well, it's a very nice compliment. It's very nice to be an innovator in anything, particularly the industry that you're in. So I guess I enjoy it. I don't know if it's ever been duplicated the same way. I don't like trash talk, you're right. But I do generally try to pick opponents that I generally want to fight, and then I will just let people know why I want to fight them. So I don't manufacture conflict. I think that it's a helpful thing. I think if you have a reason to fight a guy, you shouldn't shy away from sharing what that reason is. If you've got goals and dreams or you've got a personal beef or whatever it could be, I don't see anything respectful about keeping that to yourself. It's the fight business. I would encourage other guys to do it. But I don't love the trash talk. I don't love, the guys that are coming out. I don't know what trash talk means, man. To me, that's like a your mama's joke or something like that. I don't know anything about that. If you want to fight a guy, say you want to fight him, have the courage to do it, and make sure you show up on the night that you promised to show up on.
Awesome. One question for Fedor. In the lead up to this fight, I believe it was one of the Bellator behind the scenes thing, they said that the Fedor from Prix is back. I'm curious how you deal with expectations when people say you are the greatest heavyweight, Fedor's back, Fedor's the old Fedor. How do you deal with those expectations that people have of you going into your fights?
Которые люди испытывают сейчас, потому что, безусловно, вы лидер. И люди ждут этого боя. Люди говорят, вот Федор вернулся, Федор сейчас. Очень большое ожидание и надежда. Что вы думаете по этому поводу, что вы чувствуете?
Безусловно, в гран-при участвуют сильнейшие, очень сильные серьезные бойцы. Поэтому я понимаю всю ответственность и моего выступления здесь. Вот. угождать ожиданиям болельщиков. Конечно, даже не 26, не 30 даже. Вот. Но я сделаю все, что смогу. Надеюсь, а там как Господь Бог даст. Как Господь справится.
So in this Grand Prix, together with me, very serious and great fighters perform. So, and certainly I understand all the responsibility which I have, and certainly I will try my best. What to say, I'm not 26, I'm not even 30, but I will try my best. And I will try to meet the expectations, and everything what depends on me, I will try to implement, to perform, and the rest, that's how God will see that, how God will manage.
Thank you so much.
Our next question comes from the line of Mark Lelinwala with Sporting News.
Hey, Chael, is Fedor flat out the most dangerous opponent you've faced thus far? And Fedor, the same question.
I think so, because again, it just comes back to that power. I haven't had to deal with anything like that. I've only been knocked down once in my career, and I've never been knocked out. And I think he is the most dangerous. He's not the most dynamic. I think I've dealt with guys that could do maybe a little bit more in some more positions, but yes, he is the most likely to put old Chael to sleep as anyone I've ever been in there with.
К вам, как вы оцениваете Чела как соперника, является Чел самым опасным соперником, допустим, в вашей карьере?
Чел очень серьезный оппонент. Побеждал с лучшими бойцами. Настолько большим. Я очень серьезно. Насчет самый сильный, особенно во время боя, еще не видите, еще не наступали. Могу ответить на этот вопрос после боя.
So Chael is very serious opponent, and Chael has been fought top and best fighters. And that's why I treated, actually, and I approached my camp and training in a very serious way. But to tell you if he's the most dangerous or the strongest one, it is difficult to say right now because we haven't met each other yet. And the fight will show.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from the line of Shaquille Marjorie with MMA UK.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you very much. First question for Chael. Between everything you are doing now for ESPN, Bellator as a fighter, and an analyst, is this the most exciting time of your career?
I'm trying to enjoy it. I only feel stress in this sport. I don't feel a lot of enjoyment. You know, I look back at some moments and really wish that I had. So I'm trying hard, but it's just an uphill battle for me. I don't enjoy it as most guys. I love the process. I love the camaraderie. I love going to the gym and those kinds of things. The fight itself is very stressful for me. Fight week is very stressful. So I want to win so bad. I don't chalk it up to just a good experience or going in there with somebody. And so I think maybe it is the most enjoyable time I've had in this sport, but I haven't had a whole lot of fun in this sport.
And with ESPN and UFC now working together moving forward, is that going to complicate your role? You're with Bellator, you're with ESPN, you're with The Zone, now the UFC is coming under the ESPN family. Is that going to complicate what your responsibilities are to both parties?
No, I have a loyalty to Bellator, but I will go and do my job at ESPN if we're talking UFC or we're talking Ryzen or we're talking the PFL, whatever it could be. I'm a mixed martial arts guy as a whole. I don't see it as we have to choose between Ford and Chevy, and if I had to put on that cap, it would be an act. I watch all the fights. I watch boxing, and I watch WrestleMania once a year. I'm just a fight fan.
Perfect. Thank you, Chael. One for Fedor. If you are to get past Chael in this fight, what is the more important final for you? Is it Ryan Bader because he is the light heavyweight champion, or do you really want to redeem that loss to Matt Mitrione?
Вопрос к Федору. Если, Федор, вы выиграете этот бой, есть ли у вас какие-нибудь предпочтения? Хотели бы встретиться с Райан Бейдером или вы бы предпочли рематч с Мэттом Митрионом?
Это большой фактор увидеть. Я бы хотел. Не знаю, кто будет. Хотел бы пожелать удачи. Но нужно видеть.
If it's God's will for me to win, I would prefer to meet in the final the strongest fighter. And I would like to wish both fighters the success, and I would like to meet the strongest one.
And thank you. And last question for Matt. I feel like you're not getting a whole lot of love on this conference call. Does that make you feel overlooked, or do you actually prefer to not have so much attention on you?
Oh, it doesn't bother me at all, brother. I mean, you got Chael, who's the best mouthpiece in the game. You have Fedor, who's the greatest one to ever live. And you got Bader, who's a 205 champ. I'm just a dude with a good haircut and pretty face. So for me, it's all good, brother. Doesn't matter. I'll get my time when my time comes.
For sure, man. Okay, thank you guys so much, and on to the next call.
Our next question comes from Rodney James Edgar.
All right, good morning. Hey, first question is for Chael. Earlier, you were giving some props to Fedor, but in the past, many times on your podcast, I have heard you throw some shade at Fedor. You've said that he's overrated. Have you had a change of heart, or can you speak to that?
No, I haven't had a change of heart. I mean, when you talk about the ratings, and I hear this always infuriates me in this sport, and it's something personal. I think it comes from a spot of jealousy or envy. But I always hear about these guys, and they get anointed to the top, and they're so good, and everybody's scared of them. And then you get another guy that comes along and says, "Well, I want a shot at that spot," and then people tell you, "Oh, you're crazy, and you're going to get your ass kicked." I don't know where these chickens come from. I don't know what one has to do with the other. Maybe a guy is going to get his ass kicked, but he still should pursue his dream. He should still strap up, work hard, set a goal, and try to climb that mountain. So, yeah, whenever I hear that somebody's invincible or they're doing these things, man, it pisses me off. It's annoying and infuriating. And how many times do they put it on the line? 2 to 3 times a year? I'm not impressed by that. I hate that part of our sport. I don't know why we can't fight once a month. I don't know why we can't do this tournament in one night. I haven't the foggiest idea how this sport, which is supposed to be the toughest on earth, has so many cowards and has been pussified to the extent that it has.
I love to hear you shoot on guys that, we've seen a lot lately, guys calling out of fights, guys that are afraid to step up and take opportunities. Now, there was a rumor, and I might have heard it from Chael Sonnen, that back when Matt Mitrione was supposed to fight Fedor the first time around, of course, that fight fell through. There was an opportunity for you to step in to fight Fedor. You said yes. He said no. Did that happen the way that you described it?
All of it I can confirm except for him saying no. All I know is I was in California, I was licensed in California, and I tried to do the fight. I got all the way to Andy Foster, who's the commissioner out there, who bought my paperwork, and I don't know if it was Fedor saying no. I know right up until the buzzer, Matt Mitrione was trying to get out of the hospital bed and make that date. So, or maybe Scott Coker stepped in. I can only tell you my side of it, but I left Scott Coker at dinner at a little past midnight, begging for that fight, and I thought there could be some opportunity there. But no, I cannot confirm for you that Fedor said no.
If for some reason he's unable to make it into the cage, would you fight, say, Czech Congo on 2 days' notice, or anyone else for that matter?
I think that's who it would be. Yeah, I'd fight anybody, but I think that you're right. And the only reason I say that about Czech is he's on the card, and I heard Coker say at one point that he was the first alternate. So, yes, if something happened to Fedor, I think you're right. It would be Czech Congo.
Fedor, is there any truth to what happened? Were you offered a fight with Chael Sonnen previously, and did you decline? If so.
Let me answer that for you. This is Jerry Miller. That fight was never offered to us. So we did not turn down that fight. It was never offered. So I can spell that rumor right now for you.
Thank you. And then one more for Fedor. Unfortunately, we have seen you suffer some really bad knockouts in the last few years. What have you done to sort of get the head trauma assessed? Because it's a very serious thing, and it's something that the sport is starting to really look at a lot more. The NFL is doing the same thing. Fighting should be no different, especially fighting. What kind of doctors and specialists have you seen in the last few years?
Федор, вопрос к вам. У вас было в последний год несколько нокаутов, мы как бы переживали очень за нокауты. Вопрос, к каким докторам обращались вы? Проходили вы какое-нибудь специальное лечение вот в последние годы? Нокаут. То есть травма головы, да? Под наблюдением. So, to tell the truth, actually, the last years I do have regular, I visit the doctor and I do make computer tomography on the regular basis, and that's about it.
Okay, last question is for Bader and Mitrione. Both of you have publicly stated that that you're good friends. I understand that you're professionals. You both want the same thing, but you're also human. So how weird is that going to be? Is it awkward to get in there and try to hurt your friend? I wouldn't know. I've never done it.
Who do you want to go first?
Bader.
We're professional competitors. I fought a good friend, really good friend, Kyle Kingsbury on The Ultimate Fighter. We get into the house. We're sitting there, the only guy I know, and they call out both our names and fight each other. It is what it is. The myth is so far removed from that. We've been through the sport, had 30 plus fights, and it is what it is. Going into the tournament and seeing him on my side of the bracket, I knew I was going to fight back. I knew I was going to win, he was going to win, we're going to meet up. It is what it is. I fought my best friends day in and day out in training camp. There's no ill will. Yeah, we can talk a little shit here and there, have fun with it. At the end of the day, we're going in there competing. For me, I got into the sport to compete. I didn't get into sports because I had a trauma in my childhood where I wanted to hurt people or anything like that. I got in there to compete, to keep my my career going as far as being an athlete, and that's all it is to me. It's a competition. That's it.
I'm the same as Bader, man. We're cool, man. We spoke last night. Both of us are training right next to each other. He could hear me, I could hear him. And it's look, dude. There's no hard feelings. We were laughing about the choke on a dick part. It's just we're in there. We're just we're competitors, man. Competitors talk trash. We understand where it goes. We understand what it is, and we'll be cool afterwards. If Bader whoops my ass, then then it'll be what it is, and I'll make him buy me a beer afterwards. If I whoop Bader's ass, then I'll buy him a beer. It's just how it's gonna be. And there's no animosity. It's just selling a fight. I don't really know any other way to put it other than if you get your feelings hurt and everything pulls off in the fight fairly, where nobody's doing anything to gain an unfair advantage, then that's your problem, not his.
Operator, we got time for one or two more.
Our next question comes from the line of Billy Anderson. Please go ahead.
Thank you, operator. First question for Ryan Bader. We've seen champions in other promotions holding two belts who have been, unable to defend them, be it UFC or one championship. They wind up stripped or they wind up relinquishing. If you do win the tournament, what's the plan moving forward? Do you want to defend both? Would you stay at heavyweight?
I'm getting kind of spoiled not having to cut weight and all that, but yeah, I do want to keep both. I want to defend both. Getting through the tournament, if I end up winning this belt, it's accomplishment in and of itself, but, defending both would be the real accomplishment. It's something that I haven't really thought too much of. I'm kind of taking the tournament one at a time. What I do like about this bracketed style tournament is there's no outside variables that is going to get somebody a title shot. If you win the fight in front of you and you move on, I've done that my whole life in wrestling. You show up, it's a bracket style. It doesn't matter if you're good on the mic or if you're this or that. You win, you move on, and so eventually when you're the champion. So for me, right now, my mindset is go out and win this fight first and foremost. I've got a tough fight in front of me, and that's it. But looking down the road, yeah, I want to get both belts for sure. That's a goal of mine. Then I want to defend both and see what happens from there.
Thanks very much. And a question for both yourself and maybe Matt as well, and it kind of touches on something Chael was asked. At any point, did Bellator talk to you about what would happen if one or the other of you is injured? I mean, obviously there's other heavyweights on the Bellator 207 card, but was there any talk of who you would fight if someone fell out?
No, I think we're making it to this fight, but just like Chael said, I kind of heard through media Congo was the alternate, and I believe it would be him.
No, I never had a conversation about it.
All right, thank you very much, operator.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's conference call. I just wanted to thank everybody for taking the time today. Again, this Friday and Saturday, we've got a great doubleheader, both nights available for watch live and free on Paramount Network and streaming live on the DAZN app. Have a great day.